10 seconds. We know somebody else missing. Where's
No, it's Terry.
Where's
Mr. Ford.
Where's Mr. Ford? Where are the two of them? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome the viewing and listening audience to the 22nd meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities, including the Tobago House of Assembly, the THA. This morning, the committee will be meeting officials from the Regulated Industries Commission, RIC, the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, TNTEC, and the Ministry of Public Utilities in the first instance, after which the Water and Service Authority, WASA, will be questioned thereafter. Members of the listening and viewing audience are invited to post or send their comments via the Parliament various social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. My name is H.R. Ian Roach. I'm the chairman of this committee. I will invite members starting on my right to introduce themselves, starting.
Good morning, everyone. Lovell Francis, member.
Good morning. My name is Khadija Amin. I'm an opposition senator, member of the committee.
Good morning, Nigel Freitas, member.
Good morning, Esmond Ford, member.
Thank you very much. The objectives of this inquiry, just to remind those who are listening, is to assess the efficiency of the operations of the Regulated Industry Commission at this time. 2, to assess the effectiveness of RIC in promoting greater efficiencies of services in public utilities. And 3, to determine the adequacy of the current legislative framework governing the operation of RIC. I will now invite members to introduce themselves, starting with RIC, Dr. Guy.
Good morning, Chairman and members. I am Hyacinth Guy, and I am the Chairman of the Regulated Industries Commission.
Good morning, Chair, members. My name is James Lee Young. I'm the Executive Director of the RIC.
Good morning, Chairman and members. My name is Nadia John. I'm the Legal and Corporate Secretary of the RIC.
Good morning. My name is Carol Balkaran. I'm Deputy Executive Director of the Regulated Industries Commission.
Thank you very much. And we have who we have here? The Deputy PS of the Ministry of Public Utilities, and you.
Good morning. I am Beverly Khan, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Public Utilities.
Good morning. I am Anika Sarah Farmer, Director of Legal Services at the Ministry of Public Utilities.
Good morning. My name is Gail Dulal, the Electrification Sector Specialist at the Ministry of Public Utilities.
You have somebody else? Yeah. TNTEC?
Good morning. I'm Keith Serju, Chairman, TNTEC.
Thank you.
Good morning, members, population of Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Kelvin Ramsuk, General Manager, TNTEC.
Good morning, Chairman, members. My name is Courtney Mark, Assistant General Manager, Engineering at TNTEC.
Good morning, Chairman, members. I'm Neil Balgobin, the Chief Financial Officer at TNTEC.
Good morning, Chairman and members. My name is Gerard Emmanuel Rodriguez. I'm the Head Corporate Support at TNTEC.
Good morning to the Chairman and the members of the committee. I'm Annabelle Brasnell, Corporate Communications Manager at TNTEC.
Let me just also I'm reminding myself, but let me remind you, when you're going to speak, just please put on your microphones and take it off when you are finished. Thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to give brief opening remarks. Almost 2 months ago in February, we appeared before you to respond to your questions and concerns about the efficiency and effectiveness of the RIC in carrying out its statutory mandate as the economic regulator for the electricity, water, and wastewater sectors. It is once again our pleasure to be here for the second part of the inquiry to share the perspectives of WASA and TNTEC relative to the efficiency and effectiveness of the RIC. Over the past 6 months in particular, the Ministry of Public Utilities has been engaged in an extensive exercise of critical thinking, strategic analysis, and planning and operational re-engineering in a drive to create more efficient, more effective, financially viable, and sustainable pathways for our public utilities, particularly TNTEC and WASA. We have taken our cue from the aspirations of Vision 2030 and the UN SDGs, the current realities of our economic circumstances, and the expectations of the population to have, at the very least, its basic need for water and electricity met. 11 strategic priorities now define the ministry's agenda for the next 3 years, 3 of which are particularly relevant to the consideration of this meeting. And these 3 strategic priorities are improving customer outreach and service, strengthening governance, and streamlining the operations of our utilities to increase efficiency, productivity, and financial viability. In advancing these priorities, we value the synergies formed with the RIC, which is an important part of our country's institutional setup to promote accountability and standards of performance that serve the interests of the wider population. In forging these synergies, we are very mindful that the importance and value of the RIC resides in the fact that it is essentially the independent economic regulator for key infrastructure sectors. As prescribed in its governing legislation, the RIC Act, the RIC primary responsibilities include regulating prices and rates and establishing standards and conditions of service for service providers operating within these sectors. Public utilities, such as those identified under the RIC Act, are basically identified as natural monopolies, and in the absence of economic regulation, can charge exorbitant rates and provide poor service to the detriment of their customers. Hence, at the very core, economic regulation is meant to curb market power and protect customers, both in terms of prices and quality of service, thus ensuring that the cost of inefficiency is not passed on to customers in the form of higher prices. The fact that the RIC is an independent regulator does not negate the administrative oversight responsibility of the Ministry of Public Utilities, especially as it pertains to the RIC meeting its statutory obligations. The MPU's oversight role ensures adherence to the reporting and monitoring framework and compliance in terms of the submission of annual budgets, audited financial statements, and administrative reports. For fiscal 2018, the Commission has identified 5 strategic priorities, all of which progressively aim to change the status quo of the utilities, improve the delivery of services to citizens and businesses alike, and transform the service providers. The RIC, therefore, is at the forefront of the development agenda in facilitating essential utility services, which is at the core of economic and social activity. The Ministry acknowledges that the rate review is a priority for the utility sector and a very sensitive issue for citizens and businesses alike. The RIC recently completed the process of reviewing the quality of service standards for both TNTEC and WASA. These standards provide for a guaranteed level of service and the imposition of penalties on service providers for non-compliance. In terms of the rate review, the position of the Ministry at this stage is to allow the RIC to conduct its clearly defined process in a transparent manner, and any discussion on what would be the outcome and how the ministry and/or the government will respond detracts from the integrity of the process and the independence of the RIC in carrying out its statutory mandate. Mr. Chairman, I wish to end by saying that business as usual can no longer be the working scenario for the utilities sector. Beyond working individually with the agencies under our remit to refine their strategic focus, improve their operations, and build strong customer care and service delivery systems, the ministry will continue to collaborate with the RIC to strengthen its institutional capacity to fulfill its statutory mandate, attain operational excellence, and enhance its efficiency and effectiveness as the independent economic regulator. Mr. Chairman, I thank you.
Ms. Khan, thank you very much, but this was a very comprehensive, brief statement. I mean, when you finished here, I was asking myself, is there anything to ask you or the utilities? I mean, it is very comprehensive. I would like others to follow. Please just keep it kind of brief, because there's a lot of information that came out of there, you know, which we would like to also get in a different kind of way. But thank you very much, Mrs. Khan, and I will invite Dr. Guy to give us a brief statement. I know you have been here before, so I know you will deal with it succinctly. Thanks.
Okay, good morning again, Chairman and members of the committee. Yes, we've been here before, and you know, we did answer the questions, and we gave a statement on the operations of the RIC. The RIC, in keeping with its mandate, has continued the rate review process for both TNTEC and WASA. That process started in 2017, and for the most part, we are on target with the schedule that we had set. This process, we would have indicated, involves, it's a very detailed process. We first indicate to the service providers the framework, the methodology, the approach that we would be using, and we seek consultation with them, and that would have been done. The providers would have submitted the requirements that we need in order to begin the rate review process, and that starts with a draft business plan. And we have gotten business plans from the providers, and we are in the process of putting together the information in a model so that we can get a draft price determination. And we are at that stage now where we are assessing the information in order to get that price, that draft price determination. When we do get that, the next step will be to publish it and to have consultation on the draft price determination. We expect that that is going to be within the next 2 months. We still continue to get information from the providers. They continue to fine-tune the business plan, and as we get that information, we put it into the model. When we do consultation, then we take into consideration the comments received, and it's only at that stage that a final price is published, and that is a little way off, perhaps the last quarter of this year. But just to state that we are on target with the schedule that we have put in place, and we continue to work with the service providers to get the information and to make this process as transparent as it possibly can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guy. I would like to invite Mr. Keith Sergio, Chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, to make a brief statement.
Good morning, Chairman and members. I have with me this morning a team from TNTEC, selected on the basis of the areas of questions raised in your correspondence of March 18th. They have all introduced themselves before. Just for clarity and record, the last full examination of TNTEC's operations by the RIC was for the period 2006 to 2011. Since then, our interaction has in the main been related to customer complaints, some of which are made to the RIC before due consultation with TNTEC, and others when the customer's expectations differ with the findings of TNTEC. Our dealings with the RIC have always been professional, and in general, TNTEC has complied with the determinations of the RIC. Responses to the specific queries raised in your letter were provided by the stipulated deadline, and we are here as requested to further elaborate as may be necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comments. As you know, the proceedings that will apply here is that you will be asked questions by other members of this committee through the chair. Okay? Thank you very much. So let's start off from where you ended. How would you, in a nutshell, just describe the relationship between TNTech and the Regulated Industry Commission? In your own view, how would you describe that?
So the relationship relates to largely the determination of the tariffs or the rates at which sell electricity. And usually what would happen is that TNTech prepares its business plan to determine what the cost of the service is, and it would be submitted to the RIC for its examination. And that would be scrutinized by the RIC, and queries would be raised, and TNTech would respond accordingly. So that's a key component of the relationship. The other one is that in the practice of what has been agreed to at any given time, that TNTech is complying with what was agreed to. That is to say, sometimes customers have a different interpretation of what TNTech's understanding of the rulings might be, and there are, I wouldn't call it disputes, but there are queries, and these queries are then resolved with the RIC.
So where there's non-agreement in an issue that arises, how is that resolved finally? Who has the final say in an issue?
Typically, it would be negotiated. There are rules. I think there are very, very few gray areas. It is normally documented what TNTech can charge for, what it can't charge for, and the rules that follow. If something is in dispute, then the RIC will call TNTech, and TNTech will make its presentations as what its interpretation about that particular issue is, and the RIC will determine whether that is a reasonable interpretation or not.
So the RIC will have the final say. Is that right, Dr. Guy?
The RIC would investigate also and give its views and opinions and, you might say a ruling on the issue, and it will let TNTech know that, but TNTech is not obligated to follow those guidelines. Yes.
So in that instance, the RIC is without teeth.
In that instance, yes, and that has been addressed in other areas in terms of the review of the legislation and so on.
To be right, yes. Implemented here. Dr. Stand over and ask a question.
Through you, Chair, not so much a question but a comment, because we understand the relationship also has to do with standards. I would like to put it on the public record that I would like to commend TNTech generally for its performance, but particularly last year, post-Brett, my constituency. Crews worked tirelessly day and night to bring current back in a very short time, whereas a generation ago that would have taken a week, and for that, TNTech should be commended. And I seldom ever get to say anything like that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this question is for TNTech. In your submission to the committee, you indicated that you had made out on new technological advancements, such as e-tendering and RFID, prepaid metering, and remote disconnection of meters to be utilized. Well, I want to ask you, what is the cost of implementing these practices, and how far advanced are you in terms of, well, you can give for each one if it's possible.
Thank you, Member Chair.
Yeah.
May I seek the assistance of the General Manager to answer that question?
So what we have is we have started to look at, first of all, the RFID in terms of the ability to be able to get more, in terms of our stock checks and so on, to clearly identify our plans and to clearly make sure that we keep a record of all our items without having to spend as much manpower resources. So remember, we have a lot of stock items, and depending on how you store your items, for example, your poles and so on, depending on how you store your items, sometimes it's not as easy to check your stocks. So we are deploying the RFIDs. That's in progress. We have looked at our EOI, and that will allow us to keep a correct record of our stocks, clearly to make sure that as best as possible, we could identify on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, when we do stock checks, in terms of our quantums. Right? It will help us in efficiency there, because it means that when we're making our checks, we'll know what items we have quickly, because sometimes in storing items is not as easy, especially with poles. We will also be able to identify our street lights, where all of our street lights are, to keep a record of it and so on. Very important, very important.
What percentage would you say you are along in terms of implementing that?
We are, I would say we are about 30%. So we have started the process. We are looking at the expression of interest and so on, and we are heading in that direction, basically. And it's all to improve efficiency in terms of making sure that we clearly identify all and keep our records of all our plans, all our stock items in a more efficient way. So in moving away from the manual process, basically.
And in terms of the prepaid metering and remote disconnection of meters?
Right. So in the remote disconnection, let's start. So we are fairly advanced in that. We have deployed some new meters called Nighthawk meters. So it allows us, what we have done, we have started the process because, to go and disconnect, it means sending out a crew to go and disconnect customers and so on. So basically, we have started to identify probably locations, key customers that we tend to have issues at times with. We started our process where we have deployed the remote disconnect meters at those locations. What it allows us to do, staying from the office and remotely disconnecting, it allows us that ability to disconnect remotely. So it also has been deployed, and we have started the process on our recreation grounds. So we are looking at, sometimes if nobody's on the ground, we could disconnect the supply remotely instead of having to deploy crews to that particular site to do any kind of disconnections. So I would say in there, we're roughly about 20% in there in terms of all our meters. We have all our meters are remote meters, remote read meters, and you'd say mainly about 10%. About 10% of our meters at this point in time is remote disconnect via the office.
And for the information of the public, in terms of prepaid metering, has this been introduced to your customers yet?
We have started.
How does it work?
Right. So we have started to talk about prepaid. We have not introduced prepaid to our customers yet. But what it would mean is that we are looking at the various possibilities of the prepaid, where you could, similar to other prepaid items, you could use a credit card. You could swipe your card. You could get, you could identify how much, in terms of your bills. You say, look, I want $100. Right? When it's coming closer to the time, you swipe your card again, and you renew that process, basically. So it allows customers to keep a better check of how to utilize the electricity, basically. But we've started the process. It has not been deployed, but we're looking at that at this point in time.
Mr. Ford?
Good morning again. I would like to also extend commendation also to the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission as the Member of Parliament for Tunapuna, for the human service that you all have been providing in my constituency of Tunapuna in terms of all the necessary services that are provided. So, Mr. Chairman, and also especially to Mr. Kelvin Ramsuk, I'd like to ensure that you pass back that information on to your staff. I'd also like to make mention, Mr. Chairman, also for the commendation of Chairman Harrison Guy and the RIC, because we did discuss it at our last meeting when we had you all that we were pleased with in terms of the information, your communication and the processes and so on. But my question is to TNTech. You listed on the document provided for us on page 1, what is the potential impact of rate increase on TNTech's revenue, expansion strategy, operational efficiency, and requirement to enhance customer service? You identified 10 items, basically. But what I would like to find out, in terms of the improvements that a rate increase will provide, could it be prioritized? Because you would not be able to do all 10 immediately. Have you a priority list in like how it will be implemented once we look at what improvement that you will be providing for the country of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, there's a comprehensive business plan drawn up indicating what TNTEC's plans are for the next 5 years for the period 2018 to 2023. General Manager, would you like to give some of the highlights of?
Right, morning again. All right, so first of all, I mean, I want to say it straight in terms of what a rate review will do for us. At this point in time, TNTEC has not been paying the National Gas Company. And that bill on a yearly basis is $900 million.
Yearly?
So, yeah, on a yearly basis, it's $900 million. So we start off in that process. In addition to that, we have been doing capital works. We have been using, remember we have, in terms of any terms of income you get, is both for your recurrent and your capital jobs. But we've curtailed, without affecting reliability as best as possible, as you have said, we have curtailed some of our capital work that we would like to see ourselves doing. Key in there is some of the underground installations that we want to go a little further in, right, for improvement of reliability. Then we have the whole issue of our disaster preparedness, more spares for disaster preparedness and to be a little more prepared and so on. Recently, you would have seen us purchase, well, the ministry through the PSIP, we were able to get funding for that, for the mobile substations that we have now. So that in itself will be of equal importance to us. And of course, in terms of what we have is a lot of aged infrastructure. As I said, we have continued to maintain the system and we have continued to do the work on the plan. But of course, as time goes by, you have what you call the aged infrastructures, our tower structures, our poles, our columns, our conductors, and so on. And you need to have injection of capital for replacement of those spares. So those will be priority items, right? Once we move forward with any increase, right, in terms of any increases, should the regulator grant that final say.
Could I just have one follow-up question?
Mr. Ramsey, just to clarify a question was asked here. You said that you own $900 million?
That is correct, sir.
NGC?
No, we don't owe them, sorry. $900 million is the yearly cost to NGC, so we are not paying that bill. So really, if you were to add where we are behind, in terms of our business and in terms of our operation, we are roughly $1.5 billion behind on a yearly basis.
In meeting your
meeting our financial commitments. That is correct, sir.
So, Mr. Ford, hold a second. So is it that TNTEC provides a service? Is TNTEC supposed to be a company that is efficiently run, that make profit, or is just to provide service as a public utility entity?
Right. So the Act allows us to operate. First of all, we have to operate efficiently and make enough money in terms of to do our capital jobs. It is really not intended to be profitable, but to be able to operate your business, your recurrent expenditure, and of course to get enough revenue to do your capital expansions.
And that is not happening.
So at this point in time, no, it's not happening in full. We do all. Yes, when we had our last review between the year 2006 to 2011, we did recover, and we were making all our commitments. In fact, we met all our commitments, including the National Gas Company, and the records will show that beyond 2011, we started to run into problems, and as the years go by, as we approach today's date, it got more and more difficult to meet our commitments.
Mr. Ford, you want to finish just now?
Yeah, actually that was the same trend of thought that I wanted to find out. But the NGC payment entails what?
Yeah, the NGC payment is the cost for gas. Remember, that's one of the components for gas. We purchase the gas, right? That's how the utility operates. We are responsible for purchasing the gas that is deployed to the generating plants, to the IPPs.
So the generating plant runs on natural gas?
Yes, there are 3 power producers in the country: Trinity Power, Power Gen, and Trinidad Generation Unlimited. There are power purchase agreements between those power producers and TNTEC.
Yes,
In those agreements, TNTEC delivers the gas or pays for the gas that go to each power producing facility. So NGC sends the gas to the power plants, and TNTEC is responsible for paying the NGC.
Okay. So as a result of that, is there any part of law that can assist TNTEC from providing that service on to customers? via natural gas,
sorry.
which will be cheaper.
Can you repeat? Sorry?
You're saying that the NGC supplies the gas
yes.
to the 3 power plants.
Yes.
Right. But that's in order to run the plant. Now, in order for the service that you provide of electricity, can you enter into any arrangement in order to retail that gas to customers to provide electricity?
No, the apparatus that transforms the gas into electricity is housed in the power station. So the power producer is the man that buys a whole host of equipment, and the gas goes in there and is converted into electricity. From there, TNTech takes the electricity and brings it to the households. So TNTech sells the final product, but the ingredient that goes into making the product comes from NGC.
Right. No, and sorry, Mr. Chairman, but just what I'm saying is this. Remember, natural gas can be used as a form of electricity also. Like, for instance, they can use it to generate air conditioning and also to supply electricity supplies. So what I'm asking you, if TNTech, as an entity, can utilize the natural gas that comes to tree plants in order to use it for retail purposes to customers for electrical purposes.
Mr. Ford, I feel like I can answer that for you, no? I don't think they could do that because that's not what they are geared towards.
No, but remember, natural gas is the cheapest form of supply in terms of cost.
Yeah.
But no problem.
But there's a mechanism that transforms the heat into electricity.
Of course.
But let me ask you something, just to clarify something here. Could you tell us what is the unit cost of producing electricity? You can answer that question, or that to be answered by the...
Let me... Okay, Frank, yes, I'm the AGM Engineering. The unit cost, the production cost is just over 25 TT cents. 25 TT cents? Yes, that, okay. and that cost, Chairman, only includes the cost of fuel, which is approximately half of that, which is the natural gas
12
cost.
cents.
And the other half is the conversion cost, which is the production process itself. That conversion of the natural gas to energy is called the energy conversion cost. And so that 25 cents, I would imagine, has to be juxtaposed against what we sell electricity at.
This is the next question. So what do you sell it at?
Well, on an average of about just over 36 cents. So that margin between 36 cents and say 25 cents, you now have to deal with all your administrative expenses. This is salaries, wages, materials, insurances. That is why all that debt, that shortfall that the general manager explained, is almost consolidated in one place, which is NGC.
What you just said, I think the public will be very much enlightened by what you just said. So it costs 25 cents, as little as 25 cents to produce a unit of electricity, and you sell it for 36 cents. Yeah?
Yes.
But between 25 and 36, the difference, the arithmetic between that, the loss comes about because of the administrative costs that adds up onto that.
Yes, I've wrapped up the whole business into that sentence.
Now, Dr. Guy, when you are calculating, fixing your rates, certainly that comes into mind, huh? Does it?
In the business plan, and we take that into consideration when we're building our models.
So at this point in time, the difference between the 25 and the 36 and the unaccounted additional expenses that creates the loss, so to speak, how do you cater for that? Is that being catered for right now in the present costs, or that is something that has developed since the last rate was fixed?
Okay, so there would be, models which would take that into consideration, and I would ask the ED to get into some more details on that.
Yeah, please do.
Yes, Chair. We look at prudent and efficient operations. So we look at all of the costs that are involved or incurred by TNTech in generating electricity and transmission and distribution. Those then go into the model. And as the Chair mentioned, out of that comes a revenue requirement. That revenue requirement is what TNTech needs on an annual basis to support its operations. It's recurrent expenditure, its capital expenditures, etc. The fact that several years have passed since the last rate review, which basically is 2006 to 2011, Since then, what TNTech has faced is an increasing cost base, and hence the reason why they're running a deficit between the cost of what they sell, or the revenue from what they sell, and the actual cost of operation. Yeah? And that is why a rate review is something that needs to be done on a regular basis.
How regular is regular for you?
The Act says that we need to do them no later than every 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Mr. De Freitas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am a little bit concerned because I'm not sure as to whether TNTech is taking advantage of the opportunities and the advancements in technology globally that it has today. And I say this in the context that I'm hearing the justification for rate increases. And when I break it down to its very basic understanding, I'm hearing that we need to increase rates in order to provide better service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But then I'm not hearing a concern as to the ability of the people of Trinidad and Tobago to bear these rate increases. So what do I really mean by that? Let me just ask 2 questions to begin with, and then I'll finish my comment. What is the status of the feed-in tariff policy right now with TNTech?
What is you want?
Presently, the feed-in tariff, a policy was approved in 2015 at the Ministry of Energy, and it was not in a place for implementation because it required some legislative changes. So we are presently reviewing that policy at the moment with Ministry of Energy. A final document shall be progressed very shortly.
Okay. Second question, has there ever been a cost-benefit analysis done on TNTech's operations in relation to the incorporation of technology such as solar technology? So we just heard the cost of converting natural gas into electricity, and when you add the administrative costs onto that, you know what price that you get. But in terms of a cost-benefit analysis, if you all were to implement, for example, solar farms, which I've seen a lot of the other Caribbean islands doing now, how would that affect your operations? Would it make it better? Would it make it more profitable, even though that's not the objective? But have you all done a cost-benefit analysis in relation to new technology that could grossly help the operations of TNTech?
Just let Mr. Mark take it, but I want to say this very clearly. TNTech has constantly been looking at technology on the market outside there. Any and everything to improve efficiency. And renewables is one of the items that we have been looking at very closely. But I'll let Mr. Mark deal with that because it will tell you really at the rates of 4 cents per kilowatt hour, the lowest in the world practically, right? When you look at other options, which we have looked at very, very closely, right, you would get a different outcome, basically. So Mr. Mark will deal with that response. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, GM. Okay, permit me to address the 2 issues. One is efficiency, and the other is technology. In terms of efficiency, TNTech has taken steps over the years to maximize on the available generation and utilization of gas. Not long ago, the Port of Spain Power Station, 2 years ago, Port of Spain Power Station was decommissioned. It was the most inefficient power plant. It was aged, it was not very reliable, and it was consuming large amounts of natural gas for the production of electricity. That energy is now coming from TGU, which is a more modern plant using state-of-the-art combined cycle generation. This is to say, the waste heat that would have otherwise been exhausted into the atmosphere is now collected through heat recovery steam generators, which generate electricity through steam turbines, literally for free. Permit me to share with you some figures to give support for the increase in efficiency. Back in 2005, to produce 1 megawatt hour of electricity would have used 13.2 0.28 MMBTU, which is the energy content in the gas, and an equivalent gas volume of 11.73 million standard cubic feet of gas. By comparison, up to the end of 2017, that same 1 megawatt of energy is now produced using 10.22 MMBTU and an equivalent gas volume of 9.89 million standard cubic feet of gas. And that improvement in efficiency is by the incorporation of more modern state-of-the-art plant, together with some policies TNTEC has taken in terms of its reserve margins and spinning reserve policies, all in combination to minimize the very sensitive issue of the limited natural gas resource that's available to the country, and we continue to move in that direction. With respect to the economic comparison that you are alluding to, permit me to just refer to my document. We would have had consideration to solar farms, and the government's stated policy, which TNTEC is pursuing together with other stakeholders, would see TNTEC having to install something in the order of 150 megawatts of solar PV, because it's 10% of approximately 10% of the demand. When we looked at the economic payback period, based on the present tariffs, it would take approximately 20 years. And the amount of acreage required would be like over 1,500 acres of land, significant land space to realize this. So that, and then the other thing with renewable energy, with solar power, it would save gas, but it does not provide the capacity to meet peak demand, because at the time when you need electricity most during the night, you would still have to have the fossil fuel generators to meet that peak demand. So the savings you will realize is in gas. I had said earlier on, based on our tariff, the per unit saving on gas would be something like about 12 cents. The rate at which solar is now becoming commercially available, the very, very best feed-in price you will get for solar power may be somewhere in the order of about 6 US cents. So it is, you are looking at the economics of possibly feeding in at 36 cents to save 12 cents. So the economics are very strenuous.
Mr. Mark, if I may just interrupt you there, I appreciate what it is you are explaining to us in terms of the efficiency cost based on the question a member of the Freighters asked you. But to me, it seems to suggest at this point in time that TNTEC is operating efficiently, right?
Yes, we are.
In terms of fuel.
Yes.
The issue with TNTEC has to do with the overall cost, which lies in the administrative aspect of it, as opposed to the cost of producing electricity. So really the problem seems to be in the administrative aspect, the difference between the 25 and the 36, 11 cents, that goes overboard. It has to do with the non-activities in the production of electricity and more with the administration and the running of the company. Am I right or wrong?
Let me take that. I'll take that, sir. Let me clarify. I'll clarify two issues to get back to the point where the solar. I want to make sure I clear that up. Okay, so just to clear something, 67%, between 65 to 67% of our cost is conversion and gas, totally related to generation. I want to start making that clear. 23% of that cost. So if you have the pie, 23% of that is salaries and wages, right? So in the pie. And then the difference is where you buy your materials and so on. So you have to look and see where you have control over in that pie. So 67% you have no control over, because that's your generation cost, right? Generation, and that's conversion and gas.
So does that fit in the 25 cents?
Well, yeah, remember when Mr. Mark spoke about the cost and he used the analysis, he said, okay, this is the cost to generate, and then he said the difference really to make your commitments really lie with the other items, and that's buying materials and all the other things that you need to operate your business, right? So 23% 23%, I say, all right, and the difference is materials and any other items that you have.
No, but
right?
then that is false information. What I mean, that is not accurate information as opposed to false, because if you ask you what's the cost to produce something, I mean, it mustn't take fundamentally your material cost, whatever it is. All
right,
that
no.
on,
When you focus there, you focus only on generation.
No, I want to know what is the cost for the unit.
Right. So that is where I gave you the example.
So what is the cost? It's not 25 cents then?
No.
So what is it?
67,
yeah, it will take you in the region of about 45 cents.
45 cents.
Yeah.
So we're now speaking 45
right?
cents, and you started at 36 cents, and you.
Well, 36 is a running average. You start off with your domestic customers at 26, 32, and 37 cents, and it varies because you have residential, you have commercial, and you have industrial customers. So it varies across.
26, 32, and what?
Right. In the case of the domestic, 26 cents, 32 cents. That is the 3 tiers that we have, and 37 cents.
So none of the charges surpasses the cost, which is 45 cents.
That is correct. That is correct, sir.
Right,
that is very correct. And I want to just come back to that point. Yes, so we have some renewable projects running, right? We have the Islamic Center, we have wind turbine there, and photovoltaics there. We have in our building photovoltaics, right? And Mr. Mark was heading towards that direction. We are looking at one of the major projects right now at the Piaco Airport, which we have started to look at very closely at 10 megawatts, between 5 to 10 megawatts. The problem with that is that there are two issues I want to make clear with renewables. The problem with renewables is that, as Mr. Mark said, it will help you. So you have, let's say you have photovoltaics. So you have the sun shines, you run the renewables, you provide service. The sun goes down, you have to have the equivalent generation to provide the service, unless you have the battery power, and that is not always available, right?
Not to cut you off, but
sure.
That is exactly what I was talking about.
Right.
And I understand what you're saying,
yes.
And in the answer, what I'm getting is one or the other in terms of generation. What I was thinking about is a hybridization to deal with that very specific issue that you're talking about. So you were talking about at the point of generation, and just follow me for a second.
Sure.
In TNTech, you have residential and commercial, so you're supplying power for those two. And what I thought might have happened is that you're running an efficient system now with the natural gas, and that's fine. But an education program can go into play where you have households in Trinidad and Tobago installing their own solar panels, and during the day, when you have sunshine, they're on that system, and at night, when the peak might drop or you have the peak going up, they then turn over in their household by different plugs or whatever to the natural gas system that TNTech provides. And what that would do is decrease the demand on TNTech for, one, usage of natural gas and so forth, therefore reducing your cost, one way. Here's another thing. There are other opportunities available, again, with renewables. For example, we've seen in budgets past that incentives have been put forward for electric vehicles. Why is it that TNTech cannot set up charging stations across the country, metered, and charge people for charging their vehicles, however long that may take? And what that will do is create a secondary source of income for TNTech with minimal capital input, whilst at the same time reducing the disposable income on the pockets of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Because one, they would have bought the vehicles with incentives, so they're not as costly. Two, it's not going to be as costly to fill up these vehicles when they're driving to and from work. And because TNTech is putting in the infrastructure for the charging stations across the country, you are receiving the money. So there's a benefit to both TNTech and the citizen, as opposed to just increasing rates to cover the cost of administrative, of providing electricity as it is now. So do you understand how you can come up with a hybridized system to benefit both the people of Trinidad and Tobago and TNTech? What are your thoughts on that?
Right, so I just want to clear up one issue, forgive me, sir, but rates are not being increased only to cover administration. It's the total picture of the organization. But I'll come back to the point of right, and therein lies the feed-in tariff, and Mr. Mark will deal with that issue basically also. But what I want to point out, though, in everything, and you're right, so we are looking at that also, but there's a capital injection cost for the customer to provide the photovoltaics. We have done the analysis. In fact, we have a project going on right now in Blanchishes, right? But when you look at the capital cost, sir, against the cost of the electricity at this point in time, right, And I want you to take one other item into consideration. I have 400 megawatts of available capacity sitting down, right? Surplus, right? So I'm saying I want to make sure I say right. And as I said, when you look at the capital cost to do a project, right? Let's say the customer has to buy photovoltaics, so by all means that the feed-in tariff policy will cater for that. Economically, there is still a major difference between 4 US cents per kilowatt hour we sell at for any customer to go into that direction, right? To look at that, but certainly it will help, and it is coming, right? And where the issue is really at this point in time is that if you could save on the natural gas, because in all fairness, there's a little issue thing, but we pay at $1.18 per MMBTU, and it's marketed, right, at $3 plus per MMBTU, so we pay at a very low price, right? So you could save that natural gas, and the country could monetize that. That's really where the issue is coming, where the country could monetize that in terms of making additional revenue, of course, on foreign exchange and whatever is necessary for the benefit of the country. And that is engaging the entire discussion. But what will happen is that the moment you start to talk in that direction, the values that the customer will have to pay will go up, right? And as I say, if you're going renewables to even generate capital cost to inject for any plant or capital cost to inject for any renewables, I'll give you a typical example. We were talking about recreation ground recently. To do a recreation ground in the country is about $1 million, right? And the ministry is looking very closely at solar-powered recreation grounds. When they did the analysis and they did the cost, it came up to $8 million. And then every, I think it was 7 years, forgive me in terms of the time, you have to change the battery. So I'm just saying, I'm hearing, but you know, we have analyzed it, we have looked at it. And you know, you have to look and see, well, what is the final cost? Where are we gravitating towards? Right? So I'll just give you a typical example. I'll come back to Mr. Mark and one thing, and let him focus straight on that, on the issue of the cost for the voting. But certainly, sir, I want to make it clear to you, we at TNTech, we want to go in that direction. The country has to benefit too by the savings in the gas. The regulator has been pushing us there, and for good reasons, right? And we appreciate their role also, right? So it's not as if the regulator has been pushing us there. They have been, and we've been fighting to get there also. But again, it means that the country has to understand what are we getting into. The moment you do that transition, savings in natural gas, you get more money. The country benefits, things get better. But of course, there will be a cost, an increased cost, right? And you save on the natural gas that in the future will be available because it's not a finite, it's not infinite, right? So yeah, I just wanted to make that comment. So I'll leave Mr. Mark.
Mr. Ramsuk, clearly we need to bring you back alone to be able to deal with this. I mean, there's a lot to be done. Right? So unfortunately, we will have to just move on from this issue. As interested and as enlightened as it is, there's some other ground to cover and we're running out of time. Right? So in your submissions, you all suggested that 2% of population of the households are without electricity. Yes? Which seems quite high. It seems quite an attractive achievement. But what accounts to get the other 2% on the grid? What is the obstacle?
I think the remaining 2% has to do with location remoteness and the economic viability. In fact, Chairman, it is one of the areas that ties into the conversation that you had before, that we are really looking at the feasibility. Mr. Ramsuk mentioned the question of a project in Blanchisseuse, of looking at solar power for those areas. These would be very remote areas in which maintenance costs would be very high, where you have, reliability issues associated with vegetation growth and the maintenance of the lines that go to very remote areas. We're talking about the extremes of Blanchisseuse and some other parts of the island that are similar. So that remaining 2% might be a good captive market for the solar energy that the member spoke about. And I'm saying, as we are speaking now, a project is being considered to see the feasibility of that and whether electricity cannot be provided in that manner for the remaining 2%.
In your submissions, I think we had asked in the written submissions, which I must thank you for for supplying to us on the 21st of March. You sent it in. Thank you very much. It was quite helpful and informative. You were saying that, you were saying that we were asking in your submissions that, just let me have myself here. Yes, page 9. Yeah, the 2%. You said there are about a majority of 3,000 households without electricity. So these, the 2% is about 3,000 households. This is what you were saying here, in the information to be exact. And it's because of the remoteness where they're located, basically is the problem, as opposed to any other reason. Yeah? Yes. Okay. In terms of customers' complaints with TNTech, has that improved in terms of the numbers has varied between 2015, which you supplied, 2016, and 2017. There was a drop in 2016, I think. That was one, so yeah. In terms of your companies, there's a high volume of complaints coming from TNTech in terms of customers complaining about damaged appliances and so.
Yes, Chairman, that continues to exist. I would like to ask my colleague, Ms. Brasnell, to further elaborate.
Yes.
Regarding customer complaints, I am going to further seek the assistance of another colleague to speak specific to customer complaints, but I just want to talk about customer feedback. We seek feedback from customers on the quality of our service on an annual basis. We use essentially what is a 3-year cycle to do customer satisfaction surveys. For the first 2 years of a 3-year cycle, we would conduct surveys in our service centers where we get responses from walk-in customers on the quality of service, both on the field and in the office. And every 3 years, we do a national field survey where we actually go out to homes and seek responses to a longer form survey that expands on what we would have asked about in the previous 2 years. And the information that we get from those surveys is analyzed and submitted to all our distribution areas, where each area manager would then examine whatever the shortfalls are in their area as outlined by customers, and then we act on those issues. Customer complaints that come in to the commission come in via various methods. They come by phone, they come by email, they come by letter, and those complaints are dealt with in terms of the investigation of those complaints are done by the areas and also through the Regulatory and Compliance Department, which is under the Chief Financial Officer. So Mr. Balgobin would be able to give you some more information on that.
Let me ask you, would it not be more efficient and more contemporaneous if on a bill, your billing cycles to customers, what, every 2 months, not so?
Correct.
Every 2 months. So if on a bill could have printed, a tick-off box, right? Well, you satisfied, very satisfied, or agree with something like that. Would that not provide current information for you on a more regular basis?
We also
and more accurate?
We also collect current information in the service centers. In every service center, we have feedback boxes that give you a form and ask specifically what was your experience today, what service did you access? Sorry,
that's when they come into the entity.
Correct, yes.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, everybody wouldn't come into the entity, and you know, society is moving towards discouraging people from coming into entities now and doing things more electronically. Yes, like I think somebody was speaking about paying your bills, electricity by credit card and different things like that. So if on your bill, generation of your bill, can you not include that type of, you know, you see sometimes you fly on an aircraft and they ask you to take a box whether or not you are satisfied or satisfied. Would that not more efficient, even cheaper too?
I'm certain that is something that could be looked at in terms of doing it on the bill, sir.
I think so too. Sorry, is there a Dr.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, that's the same.
Huh?
The same concern that I wanted to raise with regards to page 2 of the report, Mr. Chairman, in terms of the customer complaints. And as your communications officer mentioned, we use 800 bulbs, we use the hotline, right? Again, the complaints can go through the local government councillors' offices, likewise the member of parliament offices. And this is why I'm able to be in a position in order to offer commendation to TNTech, because the 800 bulb and the hotline, again, correct me, don't seem to be working efficiently. Hence the reason why a number of my constituents would come to the office in order to complain, Lampole 12, Balthazar Street, Lampole 15, Fairley Street is not working, as the case may be. And then I would generate an email, right, most times an email, and yes, within 2-3 days, you know, the action is taken care by TNTech. With regards to 800 bulb and the hotlines, you know, some improvement I think is needed along those lines, because I can tell you for a fact, most of the persons that call my office or make a complaint to the councillors keep saying that they have been calling the numbers on numerous occasions and they are not getting through. Could you make a comment on that?
Regarding the 800 bulb service, I must admit that we previously used to get quite a number of responses about the efficiency of 800 bulb. However, in November last year, we changed up the service regarding 800 bulb, and we have established a call center that the calls now go into there. We have dispatchers on service 24/7 responding to 800 bulb. The feedback that we have gotten since the call center has been launched has been tremendous in terms of the call answer rate and in terms of our ability to respond to issues that customers have been raising through the bulb hotline. So we are seeing some great improvements there, and we're going to continue to monitor it and see how the numbers improve for bulb.
Is it possible you can share those numbers?
We should be able to share them in writing, sir.
Mr. Lovell, Dr. Lovell.
If I could also add, in addition to the call center, at that same time, we would have launched our mobile app service, and that also has seen some tremendous improvement in terms of customers being able to submit reports on outages or any other technical issues related to our service. And through that app, they can dialogue with us on the resolution of the problem. And we've also been seeing some great response from customers using the app as well.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lovell, you have a question?
Any longer-term plan to move away from high-tension wires?
I would start that by saying it is a very desirable thing, but it, as you will well imagine, with an infrastructure that is already in place, is going to be very disruptive. Where it was possible, I think for new developments, that it is encouraged. But as you know, it is a more costly installation. In its current state, I would say TNTech would like to do it, but it is not. It doesn't have the wherewithal right now to consider it even on a phased basis.
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to move away a little bit from that to ask a question about TNTech's policy with regards for connections to people who are considered squatters, whether they are regularized squatters or not yet regularized. The LSA has stopped their regularization exercise, and I'm aware that the regularization exercise included the engagement of TNTech and other service providers. And so I want to ask now, with the halt by LSA in their regularization, what is the policy for TNTech with regards to connecting new customers who are squatters, as well as existing customers who may have challenges? How do you treat with them?
Member, can I ask my colleague, Mr. Rodriguez, to take this one?
Where squatters are concerned, provided that these squatters, as you call them, have, say, they've been regularized or so, and they can provide such evidence, TNTech would move forward with the supply. Of course, we always maintain that if at any point in time government wants to retain its land, then there's a cost to removal of the infrastructure. But generally, that's the approach that we would take.
So they require approval from LSA if they are not regularized. A squatter who is not regularized, what would you require from them if they make an application for a TNTech connection?
At this point, I would perhaps want to pass this question to the general manager.
Right. If they are not regularized, then first of all, let me identify this point. Once you're within connecting this 50 yards, the Act clearly identifies once you're within 50 yards of our low voltage line, we should be connecting you. Right? That's clear in the Act. Right? However, if you don't have any certificate of comfort, you don't have permission from the LSA, we will not be connected at this point in time.
Thank you. Dr. Guy, as we come to a closure this morning, you can see it's quite obvious that there's a lot more to be asked. There's a lot of valuable information that's been coming out. But I would just like to ask, in terms of your going about dealing with the rate, preparing of the rate, the new rate increase that is being proposed, I think, or being discussed, is there a downside to the fact that under the RIC there is no more public hearing as such? Does it put you at a disadvantage as the regulator, as opposed to going out, and I know you're going to have some, what is it? You have what? Some consultations, yes. Does it take away from actually having a hearing where you can get probably more input and you all could?
I don't think so, because it achieves pretty much the same. When we come up with the draft price determination, we publish it and we send that information out to various stakeholders, and we arrange consultations across the country. And we take the feedback, and we will consider, those that we think should be rolled into the entire consideration, and we use that to do the rate determination. And I think that the consultation process is engaging. It is an environment where people can speak freely, and it is open and transparent. And I have not experienced the previous system with a hearing, but it just seems to me as if a consultative process is one that is more engaging, and an environment that makes for more information coming forward that the RIC can use.
Why I'm asking this is based on the information that was adduced this morning. The input, the cost, which is 67% in producing a unit of electricity, and what is being sold at, and there's a big disparity in terms in order for you to break even. So, in your deliberations as technocrats, looking at the figures, obviously, if there is, when you do your quantification and you take the cost and the production and so forth, you may come up with a figure certainly to cover the break even might be very high. So, in your consultation, would you have a figure like that to be able to discuss with the public to let them know exactly what is it? So I mean, if you say it right now it's 25%, it's more than 25. Let's say it's 40%, but really and truly, to make TNTech break even is 75 cents, right? How are you going to deal with that? Is it that you're going to give the public a figure and say, look, this is your real cost to produce electricity, and this is what it means necessary to sell and to continue TNTech to be an efficient utility provider to you all, to continue with promptness and efficiency and so forth. This is what it costs. How do you deal with that?
Okay, I understand what you're asking. The ED would give some more information on that.
Yes, Chair. In the course of doing a rate review, take TNTech, for example, we have published a total of 19 technical papers that deal with every aspect of a rate review, including issues such as ability to pay. So all of those addressed, and those are out in the public domain as we speak. When we do the rate review, if the models, the economic models that we run show an increase, possible increase way beyond the ability what we consider the ability to pay, yeah, then we cap it.
You cap it?
We cap it.
And who absorbed that difference? The government?
It goes back to the act that says we need to ensure prudent and efficient operations. The fact that the rate is considered in excess, maybe in excess of what we think they need to do a prudent and efficient operation, we can't pass those inefficiencies on to the public. We won't. So in that case, it is entirely up to the utility then at that point in time to fund or figure out how they're going to fund that difference between what we set for prudent and efficient operation of their utility as opposed to what they are actually spending.
Mrs. Sergio, is that an issue you have to deal with at this point in time?
Certainly, there are some aspects, Chairman. Mr. Ramsuk mentioned the surplus power, for example, that is being bought. You know, that there are power purchase agreements that TNTech has with the power producers where it's called a take or pay. It's the output of the plant that you have to take. So that if you're paying for 1,800, say 1,800 megawatts of electricity, you are only able to sell 1,200. Your normal requirement would require you to be, say, at 1,400. Then you have 400 megawatts that you're paying for. I think that would be an example of the cost that Dr. Leong is speaking about.
Gentlemen and ladies, this has been quite an informative morning. I thought it was going to be a short one, but I think nothing with TNTech can be encapsulated in a very short space of time because, I mean, it touches and concerns all of us living in this Trinidad and Tobago. And certainly what we hope to is to assist the regulator in helping you as a utility provider to be more efficient in your services. And this is the reason for these hearings. I suspect in the future we may have to revisit this again, probably when the rates are out, who knows. But for now, we will have to bring it to a close. I will ask you to offer any closing remarks, Mr. Sergio, from this morning's hearing. Thank you.
Well, I think, Chairman and members, I like to first thank the two members who gave us some words of encouragement. I think members, these words go a long way to the general staff of the organization and to their morale and their intention to give this country a good service. I think we should summarize to some extent by saying that despite its difficulties, TNTech continues to place a high emphasis on its reliability, and I hope that the population has observed that despite its difficulties, the electricity service is still a very good one. Other than that, I think we will take on board the comments that your members have made and see how we go from here.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much, members, of attending this morning's hearing. I will ask the listening and viewing public to stay tuned. We will have a suspension of 5 minutes, and then we will have WASA next. Thank you very much, and good day, gentlemen and ladies. Sorry, Dr. Guy. You put me back on? Am I back on? Sorry, hello, excuse me, Dr. Guy? Yeah, Dr. Guy, asking your indulgence to stay on. Yeah, and the ministry as well. Thank you very much. Ready? Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay, they're ready. They're ready.
Yeah.
Are they ready?
Diane.
So are we on? Good morning again to the viewing and listening public. Welcome, WASA. Mr. Thomas, Chairman of the Board of WASA, I will invite you to introduce yourself and your members, and then to make a very brief opening statement, 2 minutes preferably. I'm putting you on the clock. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Romney Thomas. I'm the Chairman of the Water and Sewerage Authority. On my right, introduce yourself.
Ellis Morris, Chief Executive Officer, Water and Sewerage Authority.
Morning, Chairman and members. My name is Alan Poon-King, Director, Customer Care.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning, Chairman and members. Rachel Wilkie, Director of Finance.
Good morning, Chairman and members. Shalon Shepherd, Director of Operations.
Good morning, Chairman and members. Denise Leasing Pereira, Director of Programs and Change Management.
So could you use your mic? I'm not hearing.
Sorry, Denise Leasing Pereira, Director of Programs and Change Management.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thomas, yes.
Good morning, Chairman.
There's one more.
There's somebody again?
Yes.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Dion Abdul. I'm General Counsel and Corporate Secretary at WASA.
General Counsel.
Okay. Mr. Abdul, thank you.
Good morning once again, Chairman and members of the Joint Select Committee. On behalf of the Board and Management of the Water and Sewerage Authority, let me thank you for the opportunity to appear before the committee as it deliberates on matters pertaining to the Regulated Industries Commission. The Water and Sewerage Authority is a statutory body solely responsible for the provision of potable water supply and sewage services in Trinidad and Tobago. A key component of our mandate is the delivery of safe, reliable, and efficient water supply to satisfy the demands of all sectors of society. Despite its monopoly status, WASA's operational performance and financial results over the years have been below internationally accepted benchmarks for well-performing water utility. In fact, the authority's revenues are substantially below its operating costs, resulting in excessive dependence on subventions from the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The main reason for this situation is the unusually low tariff. WASA has significant room for efficiency improvements across its operations. WASA tariffs have not been adjusted since 1993 and are among the lowest in the region. Ideally, tariffs should cover the cost of service, including operation costs and costs associated with capital investments. The low tariffs leads to consumers using water excessively. The wastage and high usage increases operational costs. Higher costs and low tariffs means there are less funds available for investment and maintenance, which are then postponed. Without investments in new infrastructure and timely maintenance of existing infrastructure, the services deteriorate and the level of efficiency decrease even further. As such, customers are not willing to pay for substandard services, and the utility becomes highly dependent on subsidies from the government. Eventually, the government is unable to increase subsidies, and the utility is challenged to pay salaries, wages, recurrent costs, and improve its service delivery to its customers. The utility's declining performance due to the low tariff structure is further demonstrated by the aged infrastructure, the high consumption levels of consumers, limited funding to cover the cost of operations, the high levels of inefficiency in key areas, including high non-revenue water, excessive dependence on subventions from the government. WASA recognizes the challenges and has developed short, medium, and long-term plans to improve the authority's performance in the areas of service quality, reliability, coverage, compliance, efficiency, safety, and sustainability. The intention is to transform WASA to improve its ability to satisfy demand for high-quality potable water supply and sewage services operating independently of government subventions. In order to accomplish this, the authority must secure a tariff increase otherwise it will continue to rely heavily on government for subventions. Accordingly, we've prepared a business plan in accordance with the Regulated Industries Commission's framework and approach for price review. In closing, once again, let me thank you, thank this committee once again for the opportunity to appear before it to participate in these proceedings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. Time is of essence, so we will try to keep things very tight and succinct as possible, the questions as well as the answers. So this takes me to the very first question. You said that you all need to require, one of the problems that WASA is facing is the lack of an increase in rates for a very long time. But in dealing with increases, how does leakage in terms of wastage of water impact upon your operational costs?
Well, it definitely impacts on our operational costs. And the RIC is mandated not to take into account our inefficiencies. But what we are facing is that we have a lot of aged infrastructure. And as a result, consequently, there are going to be a lot of breakages in the lines and disruption in service.
Right.
So it's a sort of catch-22 sort of situation.
Well, Mr. Thomas, something I'm eager to raise with you here. I have experience. I mean, you have aging infrastructure, but you must have sort of a specialized unit to deal with leakages as reported and as quickly as possible. Do you agree? Do you have such a unit in operations?
We do.
And what is your response time to when a complaint is made or a report is made that there's a leakage X, Y, and Z in the public arena? How fast do you all respond to that?
Customer care.
Okay, on average, roughly around 10 days would be the average, but it would be, the minimum would be same day depending on the nature of the leak.
All right, let me give you a piece of information. Tell me how you respond to that. I have noticed from going to the Hazy Crawford Stadium on a very regular basis, on a weekly basis, and I noticed sometime in 2017 around September or September around there, and it could be before that because it was an accident before that. There was a leakage as you entered here that was running significantly. It wasn't a drop, wasn't a drip. It was a serious constant flow of water. It went on for over 6 months. Much so, I know the manager of at that time of the stadium had made overtures to get it fixed, to get WASA, to get whoever it is fixed, and it was continued. It was 24/7 water running without ceasing. It took me to raise it with the Minister of Public Utilities some month ago. And he reacted by going down there, I think he said himself, the afternoon to look, and he saw what I was speaking about. Being the minister with WASA on his portfolio. I went back there sometime a month after. There was some difficulty he had explained in terms of ministries, who proprietors and different things like that. In the meantime, water flowing, as they say, water flowing just flowing like a flood, constant at 24/7. When I came back to the minister about 2 weeks ago, and I told him, you know, minister, the problem I brought to your notice is still there. He was somewhat shocked. Fortunately, and kudos to him if you want to say, apparently they went midnight that night and fixed the water, fixed the problem. That was going on for 6 months. So I want to know what the bill for the stadium would have been. Who paying that bill? And if WASA has any metering basis of checking it, they must have seen there was a gush of water, a significant leakage. Not for 10 days, as you said, they respond, for over 6 months. That is my calculation. It could be longer than that. That is a significant waste. So when you talk about wanting an increase in rates, and you have this kind of leakages taking place here, people will not want to take those rates increases easy. So how do you deal with that? Are you shocked by that, what I'm saying?
What I'd given was the average, and I think we need to acknowledge that we do have inefficiencies that the chairman referred to. The issue of the leak beyond the meter, that is part of the problem that we experience as well. WASA has an issue with leaks within our domain, and we are fully extended with trying to address those. The issue within the stadium, such a leak would normally, if it's beyond the meter, be the responsibility of the I see normally if the leak is beyond the meter, it would be the responsibility of the stadium manager. But if it was significant enough, we would normally get involved and work with well, in this case, the Hazy Crawford Stadium.
Answer, with the greatest of respect, is that if you are managing water, you're the water authority, and there's a leakage going on anywhere. That water is coming from somewhere. It's coming from a reservoir that needs to, if that water is wasted, that water could be going somewhere else. So forget the politics of who's supposed to do this. To me, there's somebody injured, there's an injury in the water supply, there's a rupture, it needs to be attended to. So some level of efficiency needs to reorganize how those things are attended to make sense.
Chairman, what you're describing is inexcusable. Let's be frank about it. And the system as designed, we should have our technical officers should have picked up on that leak and should have done something about it. Even if it was to come back and try to muddle through the jurisdictional, who is responsible for what, they should have at least tried to do something. 6 months, that is an extreme situation, and it should not be tolerated. And it's something that we'll definitely look into and investigate, because from where I sit, I am extremely concerned, as I'm sure you are and the Minister of Public Utilities was when you described that to me.
Yeah. And the fact that when he was spoken to on the second occasion, to his most surprise, it was being able to be corrected within the same evening. By midnight, they were there fixing it. Mr. Fraser, Mr. De Freitas.
Yeah, I just want to ask, what is the procedure when someone calls in and indicates that there's a leak somewhere? Because it seems that is where the breakdown was. Once WASA realized that this leak was occurring, as the chairman is indicating, it was fixed the same night. But he also indicated in his question that there were attempts before to notify WASA that this leak was occurring. So can you do a check to find out what is happening when citizens calling and say there's a leak and it's left for 6 months? I think that's where the problem lies.
We'll certainly investigate it, but just to answer the first part of your question, I think we'll ask the CEO to deal with the process when a complaint comes in.
Mr. Chairman, since we seem to be on leaks. Oh, sorry.
When a complaint comes in, a job or card is being made and the job is being sent out to the operations department for them to program its fixture. When that is done, they will send the crews out according to the extent of the leak. The leak is very aggressive. We will put somebody on it or send a team on it immediately. If it's one that is very mild, then we will program it into the schedule. Those that have heavy gush, like the one that probably is mentioned earlier, that should have been dealt with immediately if it had probably gone in the right direction. So at least probably the information didn't come and go in the right direction, so we can able to have dealt with it immediately. But generally, there's a process in programming the leak arrangement, and daily we send people out to fix leaks.
Okay, you separated leaks into major and mild. Just for my clarification, what constitutes a mild leak? Sorry.
Well, there are some pipes that are just oozing, and they're not gushing. Those that are gushing or releasing heavy, significant volumes of water, we have to deal with those immediately.
What is the average time it takes to fix a mild leak? Because you said it goes into the system.
Well, it is programmed, and according to what my colleague said earlier, it is around 7 days we usually take to 7 days.
Dr. Francis.
Mr. Chairman, fundamentally from years of observation, it seems to be that WASA pipes tend to rupture at the point at which they are welded. That's my observation. Is there a workmanship issue here? Is it the case that these pipes are inspected in terms of the welding before they're covered?
I will let the Director of Operations elaborate on that, but essentially, the main problem here is the age of the infrastructure. So the weakest point on any pipeline is actually going to be at that point where it's joined. But in terms of the quality of work, we're supposed to have a quality assurance officer, inspect these jobs and look out to ensure that it's done properly. But I'll have the Director of Operations elaborate on that.
Good morning. Firstly, I would say no, there is not a workmanship issue. Mostly what we find is at the pressure points, when the pipes lines are pressured, you will get a rupture at the point if there's any problem, meaning there's any restrictions along the line. Since, okay, for instance, nighttime when people are not using water and the high pressure is on the line, you may get a rupture at the point of welding or the point of joining. I wouldn't say welding, I'd say joining because of that, right? But it's not really a problem of the workmanship, all right?
Sorry, just one thing. How efficient is your 1-800 number leakage? Leaks, I think. The 800 leaks. How efficient is?
Okay, the 800 leak is a mechanism that we have to facilitate customers calling in. Again, it's an area that we have to improve upon. Given the number of calls that we get when we have issues arising, we're looking to have other mechanisms for customers to report in. So we monitor the types of calls that we get, and the majority of the calls are associated with pipe-borne water supply, and in the event that they don't have that the customer doesn't have a pipe-borne water supply, a request for truck-borne water, and leaks. We recently launched an app where we are giving customers and members of the public other facilities to get information into WASA without necessarily having to have a personal interface where we can get the data and follow up on. At this point in time, the app provides a facility where you can report a leak, request truck-borne water, or pay your bill. So we're looking to expand on that to include some of the other issues that customers would normally call in, to give the customer and members of the public an alternative to actually having to call in. We're looking to streamline as well where currently people communicate via WhatsApp, email, and so on. So all those are being streamlined to come into the system as well, into our job management system. So whether it's a call, an email, WhatsApp, we are seeking to capture all those calls and communication that would come in. Again, working towards compliance with the guidelines that the RIC has set out.
Thank you. Ms. Amin?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I am listening in a bit of amazement, and I'm sure members of the public as well, with regards to your indication that your response time for 10 days and some of your other policies with regards to response to your customers. And I think it might be a bit admirable how well you are trying to, if the phrase make excuses sounds bad, I apologize. But to me, that's what it will come across to the public and to your customers, because that is not the reality in terms of what the customers receive from WASA. The public, I just want to, 2 points I want to make. The customer care and the response, the treatment of the customer leaves a lot to be desired, and I'm sure Mr. Poon-King will acknowledge that. The way the customers are treated on the phones, every day I hear people calling into I-95's program complaining about WASA leaks for months. And the treatment when they call the phone and how people answer them, that in itself as well adds to the issue. And I want to get back to what you have identified as part of the root cause for the numerous leaks across the country. You indicated the age of your infrastructure. I recall that there was a comprehensive program.
What question are you asking him?
Well, the two points I want to raise, the first was with the customer care, and the second is with regards to the age of the infrastructure. And there was a comprehensive program, because if we have to be solution-driven, I don't think we should be talking about repairs. There was a comprehensive program to replace the major pipelines throughout the country. I know that in North-South, there was a lot of work on the North-South, replacing the North-South, the 24-inch main, I believe. And there was a program as well to do one along the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway. And I was involved in that because as chairman of the regional corporation, there were places we had to intervene where there were encroachments and so on. That has not been. So can you give us, tell us what is the status of those major projects to replace those aged lines to begin with, because you have identified aged infrastructure as one of your one of the causes for leaks?
Let me address your first comment in terms of customer care. We have identified that this is an area that definitely needs improvement on WASA's end. And we've embarked upon some exercises in WASA to train and to sensitize our staff members to, proper methods of dealing with the public and have you. That is currently ongoing, and it's something that we're constantly monitoring and trying to improve upon. So it is something I've observed myself, in terms of how we relate to the public, and it's something that we definitely need to work on, but we are making some strides in that area. In terms of the aid infrastructure, it all comes back to the finances as well. Okay, we spoke about the low tariff. We spoke about, this is part of the cost that is going to be required. It's a catch-22 situation. We haven't gotten a rate increase since 1993. So we're heavily dependent on government. We're heavily dependent on, borrowings from IDB for one, and to try and, replace some of these age pipelines. So some of these projects, we have a lot of projects ongoing, and there's some projects that have been stalled because of the lack of funding. Probably Mr. Shepard could probably give us some idea of some of the other projects that we're working on. I think the project that you mentioned, the funding had actually run out in terms of I think it was the during of the Carney line. That is one of the projects I could recall offhand, but the funding had run out, and we're waiting on some additional funding to complete that project.
Dr. Guy, could you come in here, please, and tell us what is your reaction to what you are hearing from WASA in terms of the quality of service? Where do you all come in here? Because that is within your remitter, I will insist.
Yes, Chairman, it is. And that is why when we do the rate review, we do that in conjunction with the establishment of service standards. And we are, for the first time, establishing a quality of service standard regime for WASA. That has been developed, and WASA has given its input into that, and that would be published at the same time that we do the rate determination. And just for information, what a quality of service standards regime says is that the service provider is expected to respond within certain times to certain issues that the customer may raise. If it's a situation that we're talking about, like a leak, we have established a standard for WASA to respond within 48 hours.
48 hours?
Yes.
You said 7 days, and I said 6 months.
We know it's a stretch, but it is important to set those standards so that they come together with the rate determination.
Yeah, definitely so. And in terms of WASA providing the type of information you will need to assist you in that, how readily available is that information forthcoming?
It is a bit of a challenge, and we have been working with the service provider, with WASA, and they have been providing it progressively. We would wish it could be a little more expeditious, but we understand the constraints, and we are working with WASA to get the information that we need to get into our model. A document was submitted. We indicated that there was more information that we would have liked to get, and they are working on that. And as we get the information, we populate our models.
Mr. Thomas, you realize what Dr. Guy has just said is that you are asking in one instance for assistance in terms of their tariff to be able to do what you need to do. For them to be able to do their job efficiently, accurately, and to the best of interest of all, you need to provide the information that is required. So what would be the cause for you not to be able, when I say you, don't take it personally, to not to assist the IRC with the information that is right in a very prompt way?
I'm not aware that there's information outstanding for the RIC. So perhaps maybe the chairman at some point, maybe off camera, we could probably have a discussion, but maybe, I don't know if the CEO is aware there's any information outstanding.
Chairman, according to my knowledge, I don't think there's anything outstanding. If the director of the executive director needs anything, he will at least communicate with me, and then we'll respond immediately. So if there is anything that is outstanding, he could at least speak to us or write us and let us know exactly what is outstanding.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask for clarification. I know that the RIC would determine what your rates and so on would be. And those rates are based on a number of things, including what it requires, what the agency requires, the authority requires to provide this service. And I am having a difficulty, Mr. Chairman, knowing what the salaries of some of the senior people in WASA are, what some of their engagements are, the costs of some of their engagements are, and them still indicating that funding is a problem. I know that there have been instances of workers being terminated, workers at the lower ranks, of course, being terminated, and still you have poor service being provided to the customers. So my question, Mr. Chairman, is to RIC. Do you play a role in advising when you determine what the rate should be, because the rate is a major part of their income? If there is inefficiency in the company, do you play a role in terms of advising WASA or the Ministry of Public Utilities where improvements can be made, not just in providing the service, but in the running of the organization and the spending of the public's money?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. Back to one of my original comments. When we do a rate review, we look at efficient and prudent operation. So in the course of looking at the utility, we benchmark them against regional utilities, et cetera, to get a sense of where they are. The rate that we set is based on prudent and efficient operations. If that utility is inefficient, overstaffed, whatever it may be, we do not pass those inefficiencies on to the public. It's capped at that level, and as I said, it's up to the utility to bridge that gap. So when we set the rates, what we do is we would recognize, look, the utility is in this position, or the status quo. These are the inefficiencies. We understand those. And what we do is we set annual targets to try and move them towards improved efficiency. So those may be satisfaction of certain metrics, number of employees per 1,000 connections, that sort of stuff. And it's not a process that's going to happen overnight, but within a 5-year rate review period, we set annual targets that we will question and ensure that the utility is at least moving in that direction. And if they don't, then the problem is compounded in that the inefficiencies remain, and when we come to do the next rate review, that gap is still there. So we don't get involved operationally, but we set high-level metrics to try and move the utility towards.
How do you rate the efficiency of WASA?
I would indicate that the one metric that we would use is number of, a well-known metric is the number of employees per 1,000 connections. If memory serves me, I think WASA's current metric is around 12 to 13, 14 employees per 1,000 connections. If we benchmark that against other regional water companies, for example, Barbados, if memory serves me, is around 7 to 8. Top-end world-class utilities in North America, Europe would be as low as 3 to 4.
So what do you say? This is highly inefficient? Basically from the numbers?
From those numbers, based on those metrics.
Mr. Thomas, we just got an input from a member of the public residential area asking, in terms of where there are water shortages for residents, is there a rebate system where people can be given a rebate on their bills, where they suffer that type of prolonged shortages for 2 days or more?
We actually have a system in place
2
where you
days,
can
a few
actually get a
days
rebate,
sometimes.
Mr. Poon-King. Am I correct? Mr. Poon-King?
Okay, in instances if the water supply, the pipe-borne water supply is not as it should be, normally the customer has the option to communicate that to WASA. If the pipe-borne water supply is not as regular as the customer would like it to be, they can communicate with WASA. The claim is assessed. We don't look, what you just described for a day or two, that'll be an acute situation. We look for the more chronic or deep-rooted problems if we have an extended period where people have been affected, and we adjust the rates accordingly. Normally as well, if that is to be done, we would encourage, rather than people communicating singularly, if they do it as a community, so we could deal with the situation.
I don't think I'm clear. Probably other members may be clearer than I am, but just for the sake of clarity, you were saying that 2 days, if somebody is short, hasn't received water for 2 days, that is not dealt with seriously, or is?
No, when you.
What is it?
You had asked about a rebate.
Yes, when you do, when you have a water shortage for 2 days or what, or longer, what is the amount of time that will trigger a rebate in your bill?
There's no limit to say how long or short that should be. 2 days, we do have instances where customers do not, based on their schedule, because we schedule water to different communities, you can have a situation for 2 days that is what WASA is targeting to give you.
So that would not trigger a rebate?
Correct.
So, but how, so, sorry? Yeah, this is what I'm trying to get. So how many days will trigger a rebate?
Just to be clear, remember we operate on schedules as well. So there might be instances where you're getting water for 3 days a week or whatever the case may be. So you might actually don't have water for 2 days in that period or something like that. What I think Mr. Poon-King is trying to express is that rather than look at it from a weekly basis like that, you miss 2 days or you miss 3 days, you would look at it from a more lengthy period. So like if you say 2 weeks, you're not in receipt of water or something to that effect, it would trigger a rebate. The quality service standards that the RIC is talking about would actually address that as well, and they're actually putting guaranteed water standards in place in which we're going to, there will be, the term is penalties, but we look at it as some sort of incentive on us to actually ensure that our service meets with the minimum schedules that we have.
But let me ask you something before you go there. If you're saying that the residential premises in Trinidad and Tobago are not metered, is that true? They are not metered. You all have a scheme to meter the residential premises to come on stream.
A very low percentage of residential customers are metered. I think it's about 4%.
4%.
Yes.
So out of what, a 90-something percent, 90, 92, 93% connection, right? Connectivity.
Correct, yes.
So how do you assess a rebate if people are not metered? How that is calculated?
You paid based on, we have a residential rate. So like for instance, at the top end, I think it's $304 every quarter that customers pay right now. So that if you're not getting water for a prolonged period, there will be a rebate of that portion of your bill, of a portion of your bill.
How frequently is that done?
Well, the Director of Customer Care should probably answer that, but it depends on how the person making an application for it.
It's not very frequent. I haven't seen many of those.
Because people are not aware, probably.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that probably because of ignorance?
Yeah, well, I say, well, I haven't seen representation on a regular basis.
Mr. Chairman, I think there also, what I'm not hearing is that there's a loophole. When you don't have water, where I live, we don't have water for weeks on end at a time. And when you call the numbers, you are advised that you can make a request for truck-borne water, and it would be free, and it's considered a supply. So if you are getting a truck-borne supply, the impression that you get is that you're not entitled to any rebate. But I think what the chairman is, so I want to ask about that. If you call and you are told that you will get a truck-borne supply, are you still entitled to a rebate? That's one. And can you clearly outline for the public what the procedure is to apply for a rebate?
Thank you.
First, with respect to the truck-borne, yes, we do acknowledge that if we deliver truck-borne, that is taken that we have delivered a supply to you, in lieu of us being able to provide you with the pipe-borne. And with respect to communicating with WASA, we don't have a formal procedure. Normally how it has been done is the customer would write to WASA and it's dealt with on that basis.
Mr. Ford?
I know in the interest of time, Mr. Chair, but probably we may need to look at WASA separate, TNTech separate, rather than they coming on the same day. Even though I have some questions on what has gone so far, especially with regards to Senator Amin's point with regards to during that period, 2010-2015, where we had this widespread pipeline laying. Yes, it happened on the East-West Corridor too also. Quickly, what were the benefits of that project?
Director of Operations, can you answer that?
Come on, guys, gentlemen, officers.
You would have seen in terms of a more reliable supply. Actually, when we had done the pipelines for Hollis and Navat, and we've also done along the Caroni, where we laid a parallel line, the benefits mainly would have been in terms of reliability, sustainability. Those lines were fairly old, very aged, and we had very high leakage. So every few weeks, sometimes, shorter periods of times, we had a lot of failures along that particular pipelines.
Right.
So major benefits were in those areas.
So some of those new lines that were laid, those are not the lines where we are seeing the leakages now?
No.
Right. Secondly, what was the cost of that project?
It's about, I can't say offhand. I would have
Cannot
to
say?
I cannot. We have the information, but I don't know it offhand.
Mr. Chairman, that could be
provide
provided in writing. The cost of the project, that pipeline exercise that would have transpired, the massive pipeline exercise. Right. Now, we're making the point that 93.6% of the population have pipe-borne water. That's documented. That has been stated by you all. But then we are also understanding that we have a truck-borne water supply. But the question to be answered is that out of that 93.6% of, when you look at scheduling, you look at 24/7, you look at the water truck delivery, what is the true percentage of individuals that could have water on a regular basis? And when I say regular, 7 days a week, 24/7. You all have that statistics for us?
I have the statistic. It's very few, a small percentage actually gets 7 days a week. I think it was somewhere in the vicinity of about 19 or 20%, if I remember correctly. Am I correct, Mr. Poon-King?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, you'll provide it in writing first. Mr. Chairman, through you, Mr. Chairman, they'll provide it in writing. Right. Because, you see, we see 93.6%, which is a very high percentage out of 100, which means it leaves us with just 6.4. But again, it's not a really true representation. And I want to come home now to my particular constituency, which is Tunapuna. We have the Maracas Valley area, which is a watershed area that has been clearly identified. But yet still, residents of Maracas Valley complain for water on a regular basis. LaScSA Village, Mountain View, Poolside 1, Poolside 2, we could go to Kono and different areas as the case may be. So therefore, the water is coming out of WASA or coming out of Maracas, but it's not going back into Maracas. Now, you mentioned certain elevation, what page that was, boy? Question 12. And the question I would like to ask, you mentioned certain elevation. What is the certain elevation of these individuals who do not get water? Residents who live, I would like a figure in terms of metering, in terms of feet. What is the elevation that WASA is unable to provide pipe-borne water to individuals? Because we have residents in LaScSA and Maracas with the WASA pipelines, but no water is coming to them on a daily basis. And again, we can even go closer to say, Mr. Chairman, that they are saying that prior to the laying of all these pipelines, they used to get water on a regular basis. But somehow between 2010 and 2015, after these massive pipeline infrastructure were put in place, the residents stop receiving water. I would like to know, is this certain elevation? Because I've been inquiring at WASA on numerous bases, and as the Member of Parliament for Tunapuna, I'm unable to give the residents any definite information.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
I'm not aware there's an elevation that we cannot reach, because what we do, we normally put in booster stations, and these booster stations will elevate the pressure up to,
Mr. Chairman,
to that level.
I can tell you for a fact that there are booster stations and the people still are not getting water, not even on a one-day basis. Truck-borne water supply have to go up to these areas. Sometimes the trucks that come are too big. Right, there are instances where trucks
I think we ran out of time
fell over at the side. You know what? We have those details, and there are individuals at WASA that have this information.
We will look into that, but perhaps the Director of Operations, I don't know if he's aware of the situation, perhaps he could shed some light?
Certainly, yeah, because we are running out of time at this moment.
Hi, there's legislation that WASA provides water supply supposed to be at 300 feet in the air. We provide, supposed to be at 300 feet.
Francis, your question, that's your question, right? Sure, okay. Pardon me?
Okay. There are instances we could provide water supplies higher than that, but it depends on the feasibility, which is the availability of water, and it comes at a cost of installing boosters to boost the pressures to those elevations. That also impacts on our schedules a lot. So it depends on the areas you're talking about and the elevations you're talking about, which we can do that. We have people building houses that we have no idea of where they're building houses and who approved it. And they all require water, right? And these are the people you get the complaints from the most, because we didn't do any feasibility or we weren't prepared to supply them with the supply.
Dr. Francis?
Very simple question. Are there any plans in this fiscal, to do any upgrade works at the Trinity plant?
Yes, there are. We are planning to improve the Trinity water treatment plant from 5.5 million to 7.75 million to increase that water supply to your area. But it includes some infrastructural work.
Are you going to install an additional pump?
We already have the pumps installed. We have to upgrade one or two. Our problem is our clarifier area in that plant.
No. There is one proper pump, two small pumps that cannot push that water. When the pump breaks down, it means an entire community gets no water for the week, because most of the communities in Muruga, their schedule is once a week. So when the pump breaks down, and I've been at that plant regularly for 1 hour, because there is no redundancy. There is literally one pump. When it breaks down, it means Marak or Laloon or Bastier or whatever village misses the supply for the week. What is required is another pump for redundancy. So when the one breaks down, the other one functions. And then the villagers can have their water once a week on schedule.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, as I indicated before, there is some infrastructural work to be done in order to facilitate a standby unit at that size. That's why I said we have the pump installed, upgraded, and installed. But to install the second one, we need to do the infrastructural work to get that done.
And that will be done?
It will be done.
In this fiscal?
Yes, we have plans to do it in this fiscal.
So when it's not done, I'll come and find you.
And also the filters are the problem, as I said. We are trying to get those filters from Laloon across the Trinity plant. All right?
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Thomas, if you look at your submission on page 4 of page 18, right, item 7, you said that during the public hearing held with the RIC, Regulated Industry Commission, and your line ministry on February the 2nd, 2018, it was stated that the proposed rate adjustment, which emanated from the last rate review, documented by RIC in 2012, were not approved and implemented by WASA. You were asked to please comment. And in your submission, you stated there was no record seen which indicated that rate adjustments were approved by RIC for implementation by WASA in 2012. Could you explain that to us? What is the confusion there? Is it that you all never received something? What is exactly is the issue with that?
As far as I am aware, the last rate review that WASA got was in 1993. I'm not aware of any rate increase in 2012, and that was communicated to WASA. And that is what our response basically sought to give. I don't know if the RIC could probably, if they're aware of something different, they could probably put some clarification on that.
Dr. Guy, can you share any light on that?
I'll ask Edie to give some more information, but what we are aware of from our records is that the price determination process was begun, and the RIC got to the point of doing a draft determination, but it never went forward to the next step of publishing it and having consultations. And if Edie can add anything else?
I see.
No, Chair, that is the status as far as we know.
Okay, thank you. You want to answer one more question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask, you have provided a list of the areas where truck-borne water is supplied on page 12 of your response to the committee, your submission to the committee, and on page 13, areas supplied in Tobago. My question has to do with the cost. What is the cost of supplying truck-borne water to customers?
The provision of truck-borne water is an exceptionally expensive proposition. It's highly inefficient, and it's not the way we'd want to actually, supply water. The price, perhaps the finance department could probably give us some clarity there.
It varies between 300 to 500 truck-borne supply.
Per trip? For us, yes, per trip.
Per trip, yes.
3 to 5?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you see this breakdown from 1 to 20, with Digger Martin going down to Movant, I'm seeing something like 9,315 for Maraval, Digger Martin, 12,009. That is requests being made, but out of the requests, are all those requests satisfied like that? What percent of the requests is satisfied? 12,000?
Those requests over a period of time for the fiscal years
2015
to 2017. If you look at 22 at the top of 22, that's a period of time. And actually, if you look at the response to question 23, it would actually tell you exactly how much of those truck-borne requests were actually made.
Okay.
For that same period of time.
The answer will be found in item 23.
In item 23 and 24.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to get an idea. I appreciate the answer with regards to the cost per truckload, which is about $300. What I wanted to get, how much does it cost WASA on an annual basis to supply truck-borne water?
I don't actually have that figure, but we could calculate. If you want, we could actually do a quick calculation and probably tell you.
And get it to us as well.
That could be provided.
Or we could provide it to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, it's in the document on page 13. It says a total of 47,906 requests for truck-borne water delivery were met. So if you multiply that by
$300 or $500 or $400,
you'll get the
figure. There may be other costs involved, which is why I asked. There may be administrative costs and so on, which is why I asked, and I prefer WASA to send us the information and us trying to calculate it ourselves.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Finally, we come into the close here, but I must ask this question here. With reference to the individual consultant, WASA would have hired to fulfill the requirements of the rate review by RIC. What was the name of that consultant? What was the consultant's fee? And what was the period of his contractual obligation? Or her contractual obligation, or its contractual obligation?
His name escapes me right now. I know he was...
It's an individual as opposed to it's an individual?
It's an individual. Albert Gordon is the name of the individual. I think we had actually got funding from the IDB to actually assist us in this exercise. The actual cost, Mr. Abdul, are you aware?
The cost is $70,000 US.
How much?
$70,000 US.
Yeah. And the contractual period?
1 year.
And is it still current?
Yes, it's still current.
When does it end?
It ends in December 2018.
2018. And this consultant is the linkage between WASA and RIC?
Yes, he has provided, and he has been the liaison together with ourselves in terms of the whole liaison between RIC and the authority. The process is still ongoing, so we still have the consultant also working on our behalf also.
And can you just clearly outline for us what is the role of this consultant? I know it is to provide information to the RIC with regards to the rate review, but can you outline what he's required to do?
It is on page, the answer is on page 1 of the submission. But you also have a consulting firm, right? What is the name of the consulting firm? Sorry?
Castalia. We looking to still engage the firm Castalia.
What is that?
Castalia.
Castello.
Castalia. Castalia.
Is that a local firm?
No, it's a foreign firm.
From where?
The USA.
USA. And they are specialists in what, regulated matters, or they can?
And utility benchmarking, financial management. That is their general portfolio.
And what is your consultant fee?
70,000 US.
Also paid by ID.
Paid by the IDB.
IDB as well. And what is the period of your contractual obligations?
Oh, you mean with regards to the consultant firm?
Yes.
All right. Sorry. It's still in a procurement area right now. I would share with you all in writing in terms of the fee, and the contracting period is approximately 4 months.
4 months.
Yes.
So, I see. So this is still, you said, still in the procurement stage?
That's correct.
It hasn't. What do you want? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think a critical question, seeing that we have the chairman from RIC here, is insofar of the consultancy services and being the link between, it would be good to get some opinion, a comment or something on how things have been going with regards to
as a result
the
of
consultant, as the case may be.
Dr. Guy, can you assist?
I would ask the ED who interacts with the... well, I'll ask the ED who interacts on a day-to-day basis with the persons, yes, to answer that, yes.
Our chief liaison is actually with WASA and not with the consultant. We have met with the consultant once together with WASA right at the start of the business plan process.
So is that efficient, or?
We deal with WASA. This consultant works for WASA. We require responses from WASA. We don't deal directly with the consultant.
I see.
Mr. Chairman, somewhere I heard... Just a second. Okay, I'll give it to the Senator.
Chairman, forgive me. Yeah, very short question. Is it that this consultant, this individual consultant, let's not go to the company, this individual is hired at 70,000 US per year to do something that WASA is just unable to find the expertise amongst all its senior employees to do, to develop a business plan and to provide technical support to the authority for the rate review, the rate structure? Is it that WASA is unable to find that expertise amongst its resident within the authority? So it has to spend 70,000 US dollars a year on one individual?
Perhaps the director, perhaps the CEO could probably go into a little bit more detail of what the consultant
I want to confirm that WASA does not have the expertise to prepare the business plan that is required to do the assessment.
No, but
I am finding that difficult to believe because they are very well paid and well qualified directors and executive officers in WASA, and I thought they would be well qualified enough to do something like this. So forgive me, and well, another member has a question.
If the the officer to the back of the, who make, I think it was
Ford,
that
sorry,
member.
let me just interrupt you here. The Ministry of Utilities, Public Utilities, Ms. Khan, does the ministry has within its competence such an individual or unit to deal with supporting that requirement of WASA?
Indeed, Chair, we have been supporting WASA in several aspects of its strategic and business planning. Whether we have all the expertise that will bring that to a final conclusion, no, we don't. But we have been assisting them to the extent that we can in those particular areas.
So nowhere within the competence of Trinidad and Tobago Public Service such an expertise reside? Is this what I'm hearing?
No, I'm sure it resides in Trinidad and Tobago, yes.
Where do you think it will reside? Where within the public service you will find such an individual or individuals?
I think, Chair, we would have to draw expertise from several ministries to do that. The Ministry of Planning and Development, the Ministry of Finance, of course, and with the skills of the Ministry of Public Utilities.
But would that be, given our constraints of resources, would that not be a more an attractive proposition at this point in time to explore? WASA?
Certainly. I think there's value.
Do you not think so, Mr. Thomas?
There's value in that, Chairman.
Sorry?
There's some value in what the Chairman, coming from the Chairman. But bear in mind, we have certain time constraints as well in terms of having to get this exercise done. And we wanted to get the most robust responses into the RIC. And even though I would differ and say, I do think we have some of the competencies in WASA to get this job done. I don't think all of the competencies reside in WASA to get the job done.
But can you identify what are the competencies that are missing so as to have the complement completed?
Again, it probably, the CEO could probably elaborate on this, but I don't think it's any one.
To develop the plan for the business plan, the person has to be very competent with respect to the business management at the Water and Sewage Authority, with respect to, they have to have a model. The area that has, or the organization that has the competence is the RIC. At least they have that competence, but at least WASA has to submit to them. So therefore, they can only probably lend a hand now and again, but we have to submit the business model that is in accordance with the RIC's regulation. So the competence, you have to have that competence with respect to preparing a model, a numerical model, to do an analysis of the nature with all the information and data that we have from the organization. Within the organization, we could not have found that resource.
Dr. Morris, I mean, with the greatest of respect, that sounds a little bit convoluted. And I will say furthermore, if what you just heard here from the PS, the Deputy PS, that within the ministry, such competencies can be found. You deal with a public entity as WASA. What is the difficulty in coming together and formulating a strategy? If you have secondment goes on from ministry to ministry, as opposed to getting somebody who is a consultant coming into your organization to be familiarized with the information. When you have it right in the ministries here, something can be worked out like that. We're dealing with leakages. This is leakages of finances that can be better used elsewhere then, if you can find it resident within the public service already.
At least, Chairman, I hear your statement, but I wanted to explain to you the fact that the competence was not exist, and as according to the Chairman, the matter was rushed. We wanted to get this business plan as rapidly as possible to the area that we could gotten the tariff increase, and therefore we had to at least bring a competence.
Is it finished?
It is finished to a certain degree and submitted.
Dr. Guy, what do you have to say about this?
Chairman, we do have a business plan document from WASA. The first version of it didn't provide all of the information, and we have been working with WASA to get the information that we need to build the model. Up to this time, we don't have a final document. What we have, we are working with, but there is still some information that is outstanding.
And Dr. Guy, also, not to put you on the spot, but as the midway between the ministry and the utility as the regulator, what you heard coming from the ministry's management, the PS, deputy PS, can something like that not be facilitated and be more attractive and suitable to our given financial constraints as a country right now? Would that not be something that could be quickly done? Is not something seem to take a very long, undue time to put together?
Chairman, you mean the business plan? The model?
Dr. Boris was saying it doesn't reside within WASA. The PS is saying that within the ministry there's that competency. Dr. Boris is also saying within the regulator you all have that competency. So what I'm saying, he's saying given the time constraint, it was necessary to get this consultant to put things together fast so as to give you the information. But I'm saying, if this is going to be a blight on this occasion, moving forward, can that competency not be put together so as that to avoid that in the future? Is that something that should be done to make us more prudent? If we are looking at leakages across, I mean not to be putting on the word leakage, but that is a leakage.
If I can address that question. Yes, you're absolutely right. Going forward, we would expect that those competencies would be developed and reside within WASA because they reside and exist within TNTEC. Yeah, TNTEC was able to generate the business plan as requested. Okay, fine, there's a back and forth with respect to questions, clarifications, etc. But TNTEC, if I point out, has had the benefit of a recent rate review in within the last 10 years, 2006 to 2011. On the back of that, they developed a regulatory department whose function is to provide us with the information that we need, etc. WASA does not have that department or system set up. But yes, I would envisage going forward, coming out of this rate review exercise and the implementation of the quality of service standards, that we would expect to see that resource reside within WASA.
Thank you. What is coming from the from RIC, and I'm certain that that will be part of your immediate plans moving forward.
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I want to thank you for your participation this morning. It's been quite a lively exchange, discourse as well, in terms of information. Water, as once said by a minister, I heard in an international forum talking about water, that without water, there's no life. So it's a critical element in human existence. It's a critical function that WASA is performing on behalf of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And certainly, given all the difficulties that you all have been lamenting now in terms of making yourself more efficient, we hope that hearings like these will assist in shaping focus and energizing all the necessary stakeholders to get things together so that we can have a more efficient entity. I want to thank again Dr. Guy for her continued stewardship at RIC in helping to bring forward and the two utilities that we have examined this morning, TNTEC and WASA, to be more efficient in their delivery and service of people of Trinidad and Tobago. So in closing, I will ask you to give a brief commentary on your take this morning, and Dr. Guy thereafter, and PS, please, short. Thanks very much.
Well, once again, Chairman, thank you for inviting us here this morning to, share some of the experiences that the public endures in terms of our service delivery. It is something that we take very seriously. We are mindful that there are certain challenges. We have challenges that we face, and we are trying at all stages of our operation to try and improve and increase the efficiency of the organization. We are thankful to our partners, the Regulated Industries Commission, as well as the Ministry for their assistance in the past, and we will certainly take on board some of the suggestions that have been made by this committee in terms of trying to improve our service standards and our delivery to our customers.
Thank you very much. Dr. Guy?
Yes, sir. Chairman, members of the public, we're happy to be here to share the information. To give information, the RIC is well poised, and we have prepared for these rate reviews, and we are working with the service providers so that we can deliver on the mandate that is in the Act. We have a schedule for TNTech that is well on target, and we continue to work with them to get the information to complete the review. WASA, we anticipate, is a little bit coming after TNTech, but we continue to work with WASA to get the information to populate our model so that we can move forward. We would like to see these rate reviews, both rate reviews, be completed before the end of this year. And I think if we put our minds to it and work towards the schedule that we have, it will be done. We also are mindful of the fact that the rate review must come with the quality of service standards, and that is something that would be very valuable for customers in Trinidad and Tobago. So they must go hand in hand, a review with the quality of service standards. And again, we're working with the providers to ensure that that is in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well.
Mr. Chairman, I want to say that the Ministry of Public Utilities fully identifies with the concerns expressed by the committee, particularly as it relates to operational inefficiencies and poor customer service. Beyond the issue of the quality of service standards that falls under the RIC, we too are strengthening our performance management system with our respective utilities. And in addition, we are in discussions on several projects that will take, in particular, WASA forward to address the issue of leakage, demand management through bulk metering and universal metering, looking at changing out some of the infrastructure and really looking at the organization as a whole and the efficiency with which it operates, and trying to institute some changes as far as we can from our position as the Ministry of Public Utilities. So we fully recognize what we have to do, and we have been working with WASA, and we will continue to do so until such time as we are able to effect some change, meaningful change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in closing, I would just like to make some announcements for public announcements. The public is advised that the committee's 9th report on the operations of the Chaguaramas Development Authority was presented in the Senate yesterday on March 7th, 2018, and will be presented in the House of Representatives later today. This report will also be made available for review on the Parliament's website, www.ttparliament.org. Some of the issues addressed in the report are as follows. A, the line Ministry of Planning and Development shall assume a leading role in revising the Master Development Plan 2015 with input of the CDA. B, the CDA should collaborate with its line ministry to produce a recovery plan to guide its reformation. And C, the compliance unit of the CDA should undertake a thorough examination of the tenants' leaseholders' records in order to determine whether they are compliant with statutory obligations. Further to this, the CDA must take appropriate legal and administrative action against those who are non-compliant. There being no further business, I would like to thank all the viewing public, the listening public. I would like to thank all those of you who have participated here this morning. I would like to thank my other members who have helped, of the committee who have helped to make this a success this morning, and that the public will have been enlightened to what is to be expected from WASA and TNTech moving forward. I thank you. This committee now stands adjourned.